What's up, everyone? Welcome to my vlog. I am Rowin Luyun at your service. And I believe the saying, the mediocre teachers tells, the good teachers explains, the superior teachers demonstrate, and the great teachers inspire. Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're tackling one of the hardest things in education. How do we actually teach creativity? We recently had an amazing one-on-one with a veteran secondary teacher. They've requested to stay anonymous to keep the focus on the student. But the strategies they shared are too good to keep secret. We've got 15 minutes to break down how to turn stagnant classroom into creative powerhouse. Let's go! First up, my favorite teacher told me that silence is actually the best tool for noise. Creative noise? That is? They use a strategy called silent gallery walk. Instead of lecturing on one topic or the new topic, they hang mysteries around the room. Weird photos, half-finished poems, or confusing data chart. The rule? A student walk around for 5 minutes in total silence. They can't talk, but they must leave a sticky note with one question in every piece. My favorite teacher said this stops students from looking for the right answer and start them looking for interesting questions. By the time the silence breaks, the room is already buzzing with curiosity. Next is a bit of paradox. To get kids to think outside the box, you have to give them a smaller box. My favorite teacher calls this the verbal minefield. When they are teaching new vocabulary or concept, they challenge students to explain complex idea while avoiding safety words. For example, if you're explaining a poem about the ocean, you aren't allowed to use words water, blue, or sea. This forces the brain to use metaphor and analogies. My teacher noted that this is where the most aha moments happen when the student has to find a creative detour to get the point. But how do you grade this stuff? This was the most important takeaway from my favorite teacher. They don't grade the final product, they grade the drafting diary. They want to see the failed ideas, the messy sketches, and cross out sentences. My teacher told me if a student is afraid to look stupid, they will never be creative. By giving points for the process and the mistakes, they have created a psychological safety net. Students feel safe to keep risk because they knew the effort of exploring is what's being rewarded, not just polished, safe final version. So, to recap, my favorite teacher's masterclass started with the silent injury, use constraints to force new thinking, and the reward, the process, not just the result. These aren't just teaching tips, there are ways to respect the creativity potential every student walks in with. Huge thanks to our anonymous teacher X for the interview. Which of these are you going to try in your next lesson? Drop your comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more teacher to teacher deep dives. The strategies shared by my favorite teachers represent profound shift in educational philosophy, moving the focus from the conceptions of information to the cultivation of cognitive ability. By utilizing the silent gallery, the classroom transforms into space where curiosity is prioritized over compliance. Silence acts as a tool to dismantle the social anxiety of being right, allowing students to engage with the raw data and imagery on a personal and intellectual level. This inquiry-based stance ensures that when dialogue finally begins, it is fueled by genuine wonder rather than a desire to please the instructor. Furthermore, the introduction of the verbal minefield highlights the essential paradox that creativity often requires boundary to thrive. By removing safety words, the teacher forces students out of the path of the least resistance, glitches and easy definitions, and into the realm of complex synthesis. This use of constraints act as an catalyst of neuroplasticity, requiring students to lean on metaphor and analogies that they might otherwise never explore. It turns the act of communication into puzzle, making the eventual aha moments a direct result of rigorous creative problem solving rather than simple memorization. My favorite teacher established a philosophical safety net that mirrors real-world professional iteration. This shifts the goal of education from the production of a polished, static artificial to the development of resilience, creative process, teaching a student that the value of their work lies in the depth of their exploration rather than the perfection of their output. And now, let's welcome my co-partner, Ms. Karen Lucero, to explain to us and give us more information and more strategy to use in our lesson. Let's welcome!
Thank you, Miss Rowin. Good day, everyone. For today's vlog, I will be sharing the responses of one of my favorite teacher that I interview about teaching strategies that help develop student creative thinking and new literacies. First, I asked her, how do you help students become more creative in class? And she said that she allows students to express their ideas in different ways, like drawing, storytelling, and role-playing. She also connects the lesson to the student's daily life. For example, after reading a story, students are asked to create their own ending through a drawing or a short skit. Second, I asked her, what activities do you use to improve student reading, writing, and speaking skills? She shared that she uses reading aloud, journal writing, and group discussion. For example, students read a short passage, write a reflection, and then share their ideas in front of the class. Third, I asked her, how do you use technology to help students learn? And she answered, she uses videos, presentation, and simple online tools to make lesson more interactive. For example, she shows a short educational video and then asks students to answer the question or share what they learned about what they watch. Fourth, I asked her, how do you encourage students to share their own ideas and opinions? She then told me she creates a safe classroom where all answers are respected and asks open-ended questions. She gave example questions that she asked to her student. What do you think about this story? And let students freely share without fear of being wrong. The last question I asked to her, what advice can you give to future teachers about building and enhancing new literacies? She shared her own ideas. She advised future teachers to be open to new strategies and to use technology wisely. She also emphasized teaching students how to think, communicate, and use information responsibly. For example, a student can create simple digital projects like poster or presentation to show their understanding. That ends our interview. We learned that promoting creative thinking and new literacies is possible through simple but meaningful strategies like encouraging expression, using technology, and creating a safe learning environment. So much for watching. I hope you learned something that you can apply in teaching. See you on our next vlog.